All right, this week's tip is going to be about what I do turning the corner on a reining pattern. So basically that approach to the run down and stop. What I do when I turn that corner and I go run down. And basically, somebody asked me this question, hey, can you do something on it? And I'm assuming that they're talking about, when those horses want to take off running. Typically early, they want to take off and then they want to slow down. So number one, I think the best way to work on that is to never let it happen. Sometimes things happen, but these are creatures of habit. This is a 3-year-old here I'm going to show you with, and I start on them early. And this is something that I've kind of just figured out over the years. I've grabbed a few things from other people and kind of made it my own, and it's really worked well for me to keep those horses real good, show after show, about turning the corner and running down, because I really believe that's the beginning of that rundown is how they turn. If you don't turn and get straight, typically doesn't lead to anything good going down that way. Now, with them being creatures of habit, I think the biggest thing you got to do is you just got to mix up your work on the end. And I'll show you that here in just a second. What I mean by that, on this young one, I definitely want to go and just show her a 90-degree turn on the end here and run down a few times so she knows. So I'm not catching her by surprise. But then once I kind of know I can do that, which I'll show you in a minute, I'll add a few wrinkles to it to mix it up so that horse is just always waiting for me to give him the signal. Also, I'm going to show you a little small thing that I put in on every single one that I actually will use while showing. I'll show you right now. I'm going to start off in 2 hands on her. And I think this corner is just something you want to practice a lot. I do this a ton at a horse show because you can't run and stop but only so many times. But I can sure go around and work these ends quite a bit. I'm going to lope off. When I go to turn that corner, first things first, let me back it up a second. When I'm on that back wall, I like to turn my head and find a target. So I'm picking out a particular beam or a banner, whatever. I know my point where I want to get to. If you don't know your destination, you never know if you got there, and nothing's ever really, really clear. So actually, I'll show you at the walk real quick before we get loping. So I'm coming around my end here. I'm looking down, I found my target. I want to make a nice 90-degree turn. And then I'm set on my target and I'd run down and go stop. That's what it's going to look like when I go show, more or less. Now, here's what I'm going to show you. Go ahead and lope her now. Find my target, turn. What I like to do is right after I turn the corner, I like to ask my horse with my outside leg to move laterally, so a diagonal basically, 2-track, just a horse's width over. And once they do that, I release that leg and keep going. Now in the beginning when I do this, it's going to be real noticeable, but once I get this refined and I go show, you won't hardly notice. Turn, pick up, move her over, and then I'll break down. Now you saw her kind of fighting my hands a little bit. Don't even pay attention to that in the beginning, especially with this being a 3-year-old. Just stick to your exercise here of turning that corner, asking them to move over, and then let them break down. Now, with enough practice, they're going to get really good at this. Now, the reason why I like doing this, a couple reasons. Okay, number one, what happens when you go show and those horses want to run off? They're anticipating, right? They're getting ahead of you. So they think they know the game because you've done it a few times or a lot of times. And right about here, they're going, okay, if I haul butt down there, sooner I do that, the sooner I get a release of pressure. What I'm trying to do is keep that horse's focus when I come around here by asking him a question. So I turn that corner, pick up, put that outside leg on, ask him, hey, will you listen to that outside leg? Okay. There, good. Then release and then break down. So now I've changed the sequence of events, if that makes sense. I'm trying not to get too complicated. When I turn that corner now, that horse, instead of assuming that we're just going to run down and stop, I'm turning that corner asking, will you just move off my leg? Okay, no stress, then break him down to the walk. Now think about it. With enough practice, you carry this in the show ring. If you turn that corner, and this is good for non-pro riders too, because it makes you stay aware and it breaks this run down into sections. You turn that corner, okay, you're nice and straight. You pick up and move him over a little bit. That horse now is focused back on you. See, her ears are on me. If that horse is listening, they're going to focus back on you, and now you're ready to go ahead and start making your build to run down and stop. Second to that, when you move them over, you're going to probably you're going to cement that horse is now straight. So let's say you turn that corner and you don't get perfectly straight, which can happen, and you're angled off just a touch. Well, when you pick up and move them over, they should line right out, and now they're ready to run down. And then also, when you're showing, you might turn that corner and you ask them to move over and they don't listen. Now your caution flag's up. You know my horse is not focused on me, and I'm probably going to be a little more conservative on that rundown. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to ask for that speed because I already know confetti is not paying attention, right? But it also gives me something when I go to practice. I know, okay, well, that horse tuned me out when I showed last time. I asked her to move over. Now, granted, she maybe ran down and stopped good, but you know that horse wasn't really focused, and that's going to lead to that horse anticipating things down the road. So maybe they didn't get you today, but it's going to start unraveling slowly. So then I'd expect to go in a schooling class the next time, or a paid warm-up or whatever, and I'd really focus on just that alone, not the stop. And that's where you got to get smart about your practice. It might not necessarily always be about can the horse stop +1. It's about that approach, because if the approach isn't good, even if you're stopping +1 today, you won't be in the future. Now, adding to that, another thing that I'll do, I'll start making different approaches off this corner. So I might come all the way down here, and let's say, like, I can already feel she was wanting to anticipate go that way, going to the left. I'll make her come to this corner, and I might let her rest. I might pull her around. I'm not going to do anything to really try to hurt her, but I'm just going to handle her till I feel her focus is back on me. You know, depending on how broke your horse is how much you'll expect. And then I might walk off like nothing ever happened and lope off again. My hand down, I feel it right there wanting to, again, she's wanting to anticipate going that rundown. I'm going to mix it up, because remember, how did they get to anticipating that in the first place? It's because time and time again, you probably just turned that corner and ran and stopped. These horses aren't dumb. Pretty soon they understand, oh, we're running down and stopping. So it's your job now, you got to start mixing it up. And you'll be amazed at how just doing little things like this, there she wants to drift over again, I'll pick up and take her over. Nice and easy. This is something I could do at a horse show. I can do a ton at home. And this is working on the beginning of your rundown. And this is not something I always did, but I've added this to my box now, and now I just do it on 3-year-olds. I don't wait until they start wanting to make their own decisions. Then I might come to the corner, and I might turn and come on a diagonal. I'm still working my straight line, but I've just mixed it up. And all you can see is I'm just having this horse wait until I ask him to do something, okay? Now let's say you got a horse that wants to run away. Still, same thing. Typically those ones are going to anticipate. Let's say they don't. You turn that corner, release, ask them to move over. At this point, they're probably wanting to run off. When they do, that's when I'll keep my leg on. I'll break them down until I feel them relax, move off of that leg, and then I'll release. Then I'll go back and do it again. I won't run down and stop. I almost make this a maneuver. And you'll be surprised, pleasantly surprised, at how your horses will start to relax, because they're not thinking every time they turn this corner, are they going to have to run down and stop, okay? So right here, she's not really moving off my left leg very well. There, that's better. Release and go back. Now another level, you can play around with this too. Make up your own routine on your horse, just thinking about what are they doing, okay? Don't really punish them if they're, especially if they're wanting to get antsy and wanting to run. Let me show you another thing you can do. Let's say you turn that corner. She's getting even more relaxed too, by the way. Turn that corner. I ask her to move over. She gets excited, and I mean really excited. I might just hold her, keep my left leg on, and counter canter right here. Okay, counter canter. Okay, there she went to break down, then I'm going to release and let her out. Sometimes you might have to counter canter for quite a while, depending on how bad your horse is. So now I haven't punished them for wanting to run off around the end. I've just made it hard. They've got a counter canter now, and then I'm also got my outside leg on, so I'm working on them yielding to my leg as well. So it's all productive stuff. turn that corner. Okay, now let's say they don't turn, like she didn't turn real sharp there. Now I'm gonna work on my steering. So you can see everything ties in. You've just gotta be, you know, observant enough to realize what your horse is doing. If your horse is not guiding, well, you've gotta fix that. Wanna get those shoulders moving? There. Those shoulders moving. I love that right there, and that's kind of one spot that I'm looking for. That was a huge change. When I went to guide this mare right here, she actually just took all the air out of her body. She relaxed and she broke down to a trot, then down to a walk. I'm gonna reward her and let her stand here. If I'm working on a session with a horse and they do that, I'm quick to let them reward and relax right here, because we all know it's typically not a problem of getting them to run, right? Usually they want to run too much for the most part with most horses. I think regardless, this type of exercise that I just showed you is going to give you a ton of confidence when you go out and show the next time that when you turn that corner, that your horse is going to be with you. If nothing else, you're going to know if they're not. But going around, making sure they, finding your target, making sure they guide, adding that little wrinkle of can you move over just a little bit, to ensure I run a straight line, and also break up that sequence in their mind of questions you're asking. They turn that corner, those ears check back on you. Now it's like all systems go. Now you can go through your gears and speed up and run down there and stop. Now I'm on a 3-year-old here. She didn't throw a lot of trouble at me. She did anticipate a few times that you guys saw. Older horse, you might have a lot more work. This is something that I'll do quite a bit of at paid warm-up schooling events, but really like after big events, like I just got back from the Derby a little bit ago. When I start legging my horses back up, I'll come here and start working. It's kind of damage control, like see how relaxed they are. And what I found, once you get this kind of a routine down and you start practicing, you'll be amazed at how much better they'll start stopping. And then also, you'll start to notice that your horses aren't falling apart as much in the show ring. You're not gonna feel like, man, I've gotta school them 4 times for every time I show them. You're gonna feel, it might be other things you gotta work on, but going around the ends is not gonna be one of them. It's gonna be about how you prepare before, but then also you'll take that knowledge with you into the show ring and start picking things apart, and like I said, as a competitor, and for amateur riders in particular, I think it really helps if you get keyed in on little things, like a game of connect the dots, rather than going, oh my gosh, I gotta do pattern 10. No, you're thinking about going from spot to spot to spot, and you pick that pattern apart piece by piece, and it makes it a lot easier to get that entire run completed. So that's a way there. Again, to summarize everything, try not to ever let your horse get to that point where they go around that corner and your hat blows off and you're doing that dart ass down there. Try to get ahead of the game. You can practice this a ton. I really don't think you can practice it too much. You can dang sure run and stop too much. You can only do that so many times. So there's your tip. That's a big one. It might only take you 5 minutes. It might take you 5 weeks to get that on your horse the way you want it. But I sure hope that helps.
Looking to step your game up? Perfect. All you have to do is go to mattmillsreining.com. It's only $24.95 a month, so sign up today, because the key to success is knowing.